Please be ready for a dictation of transcription number 278 from Sir Kailash Chandra magazine. 5 seconds. Start. I would like to add that the honorable member's impression that whatever has been put into these companies from the consolidated fund is done without an appropriation is not correct. No money can be paid out of the consolidated fund without some appropriation of some kind or the other. Therefore, sir, the real issue is not so much of paying monies out of the consolidated fund or the form of organization, but the powers of the Comptroller and Auditor General and the authority of the executive as well as Parliament over these organizations, especially in regard to financial matters, that is to say, financial control. In regard to the position of the Comptroller and Auditor General, when we bring forward that particular legislation which we have in mind, or when we insert that chapter, undoubtedly we shall make a provision there which will ensure that the Comptroller and Auditor General is enabled to exercise the functions which the Constitution intended that he should exercise. In the case of organizations which are owned entirely by government, of course, there is no question. It will always be provided that the Comptroller and Auditor General shall audit. The doubts will arise in respect of companies or corporations, maybe in which government have only a share. Now some limit would have to be indicated, above which the whole concern would be regarded as sufficiently a state concern to attract the exercise of the functions of the Comptroller and Auditor General. And at the appropriate time, I have no doubt that the House will be invited to give its thought to these matters, and we might remove any doubts that might be lingering in the mind of the Comptroller and Auditor General or in the mind of the Public Accounts Committee. Next, I come to the control of Parliament. The Honourable Member quoted something from the UK. As far as I can decipher, the Public Accounts Committee is never eliminated. I do not know whether I misunderstood him. Anyway, I make the statement that all reports and accounts issued by the corporations are presented to Parliament and consequently are subject to scrutiny by the Public Accounts Committee. It is the Comptroller and Auditor General who does not always figure in these matters, but there is a move to appoint an officer equal in status to the Comptroller and Auditor General. Parliament comes in when monies are appropriated. Parliament comes in when the Public Accounts Committee reports on how these appropriations have been used, and when the Public Accounts Committee considers this, there is no document that can be withheld from the Public Accounts Committee. I think much has been made of the answer given by my honorable colleague in regard to the furnishing of lists of contracts. It may be that certainly, as the Prime Minister pointed out, if Parliament does insist that all the contracts must be placed before the House, they have a right to demand. But as a matter of practical prudence, it may be that these things are not necessary. In other words, public officers who exercise certain functions carry their heads, so to speak, on a platter and ready to be knocked off if it is shown and proved afterwards to the satisfaction of Parliament that they have not properly carried out their duties. Therefore, I do not see how there has been any detraction from the authority of the Parliament exercised through the Public Accounts Committee by the mere creation of corporations with the knowledge and consent of Parliament. Let us now confine this issue to the very clear and oversimplified case of a corporation created by an act of legislature. Therefore, Parliament itself would be invited to exercise a certain measure of self-denial, or at least to agree to a measure of self-denial by the executive in its financial control. And if that is the situation, if experience proves that the thing is not working properly, then it may be that we may have to revise the whole basis of what we call our mixed economy. It may be that we find that our bureaucracy is not capable of handling some of the matters which have been entrusted to them. The Honourable Member referred to a food secretary having been appointed as managing director or something of the shipyard, and the Secretary General being appointed as the chairman of the shipping corporation. He probably does not recall that that particular person had been for 14 years in the Commerce and Industry Ministry. Now, so far as these negotiations are concerned, the Honourable Member is under a very wrong impression. I myself can vouch to this, that I have been concerned at almost every important stage with the negotiations from the financial point of view. Stop.